And I'm loving it. This picture on purpose with this guy sitting here because he looks like he's at peace. I don't know, but the picture suggests that he's at peace. And I titled today's thought, Clean It Up, because there is so much that is a mess. Now, I don't have the power, and I don't think you do either, to clean up stuff in the world. We've got this horrific thing going on in Eastern Europe, and I watch the news, as I'm sure you do, off and on, and they describe it with progressively more powerful words, more ugliness, right? And this isn't a political conversation, but they're, groping for the right description because we are all offended. Our sensibilities are gouged and offended by the atrocities that are going on. So we don't have power to wave a wand and clean that up. So what am I talking about, clean it up? Well, let's just get simple. I used to live, I sometimes think of myself, not today, but decades ago, as a pathological liar. What I mean by that is I lied all the time. Even when I didn't even need to, when it didn't matter, I lied. And I learned to lie as a kid to protect myself because there was a lot of physical abuse. And so I lied a lot to either put off punishment or escape it altogether. And sometimes you get caught and then you get beat worse, once for lying and once for whatever it is that you did. But anyway, I learned to lie, and I also learned that I had a peculiar talent, which is nothing to be excited about. I could remember really well what I'd said, so I never got caught in lies. Now, that's a messy pair, right? So I used to be able to lie really well and was proud of it, and I used to create reality all the way I wanted it with stories. And that was a terrible thing that went on long into my adulthood. And it was part of my coping mechanism for the depression that I struggled with for decades. I would just say whatever I needed to be okay. One of the manifestations of my depression was the feeling that no matter what was wrong, it was my fault. My fault. So I assumed responsibility for all kinds of stuff, that some of which I might have been responsible for, but lots I wasn't. One of the hardest things for me to do is to learn to tell the truth. Now, I did another episode a little while ago about telling the truth, but it's the foundation for this one about cleaning it up. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we all live in a world where people say things. They make commitments and promises, and most of the time, by far the majority of the time, they're not real. They're not serious. I'll give you an example. If someone says to you, yeah, I'll do that, or yeah, I'll be there, quite often what they mean is, if I remember, if I still feel like it, if I don't get a better offer, and if you don't piss me off between now and then. That's sort of the unspoken truth. And if the time comes and anything else intervened, and I'm not talking about death or hospitalization, I forgot, oh, yeah, this came along. Oh, yeah. Or, oh, you made me mad. All those things are sort of automatically assumed to be good enough. And that's true because when someone really wants to make you believe them, they add all kinds of extra stuff. Oh, yeah, no, I promise. No, really, I swear. They add all this extra language, right? So we know that we live in a world where most of what people say is not true. Partly shaded, partly left out. What would happen? And this is why clean it up. What would happen if you and I, just me and you, not everybody, me and you lived in a world of truth where every single syllable that came out of my mouth and yours was absolutely true, to the very best of our knowledge, to the very best of our ability, and that every thought and everything I said I did, or you said you did. So part of my personal truth and commitment statement that I review every day says, I am integrity. I do what I say, I am who I seem, with no camouflage, duplicity, or guile. Now that might sound like I'm saying, yay me, which I'm not. It is a declaration of who I am. Another piece of the declaration says, yeah, and if I fall or fail, I get up, fess up, clean it up, and recommit. Now that's what I want to talk about, the clean it up. Because no one is perfect, and no one should be pretending they're perfect, God accepted. Okay, then that means we fail all the time, in little ways and sometimes in big ways. So what do we do? Well, most of the time, my observation, yours might be different, most of the time we ignore the failure and hope nobody notices. Or we excuse it with one of the excuses I mentioned earlier. Or we just sort of ignore the irritation, pain, struggle, and inconvenience we caused someone and offer an apology. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And that's the extent of it, right? Nothing more happens. That isn't cleaning anything up. So one of the things I've worked on myself in my own personal development, and it's borne great rewards, is the idea that if I say or even imply something, that's why my statement says, I do what I say, I am who I seem, with no camouflage, duplicity, or guile. And guile's that fun word that means, twisted intent, dual motives, and all that stuff. What I do is if I don't complete the words or intent that I've created, then I don't brush it off. I see it, I acknowledge it, and I clean it up. Now, clean it up might mean something different in every case. There might be a repair I can make. It might be too late to fix that, but I certainly acknowledge and do everything I can that makes sense to clean it up. Now, that is, I have discovered in my coaching practice, in my relationships with my wife and with everyone that I associate with, taking that stance of one of the, I think it was Werner Erhard, or maybe it was Eckhart Tolle, but I think it was Werner Erhard, talked about being your word. Being your word. What does that even mean? I can't be a word. That means that my very essence, my entity, is the words that come out of my mouth. And there's a truth that I finally understood to a very deep level, and I'm sure there's 20 more layers, but to a very deep level, that's all we have. Every other thing I have, this shirt, the money in the bank, the computer over there, the recording studio over there, it's all going to evaporate. The only thing I have and you have is our word, the thing that we say. And with that sort of slapped in the face, whack, then I paid a lot more attention to what does it mean to be my word? What does it mean to have every word that comes out of my mouth be true and be binding? It's true and it's binding. Well, I can tell you I say a lot less. And it isn't because I don't like to talk, but I'm more careful about the words. I think, is what I am about to say true, and am I willing to be bound by these words? True and binding. True and binding. So I'm inviting you to think about this. If someone recorded, and I believe that it happens, but we won't get into that, someone's recording everything we say and even everything we think. And that thought used to scare the daylights out of me because there were lots of things I thought that were not good, not nice, not true, and certainly didn't want to be bound by them. And so overhauling everything in my head and thinking two things. One, okay, every word that I speak is going to be true and binding. Okay, let's back up because words come from thoughts. So the thoughts that I think, I understand random impressions come, but the thoughts that I allow to stay, I need to believe they are true and allow them and use that power of thought to create my life and reality. And since no one is perfect and does that perfectly, in fact, we are all flawed and fail badly sometimes and maybe every day, then the answer for me at least is to clean that up. What does that look like? Well, go to the person or people affected and clean it up. Say specifically what happened, indicate appropriate ask. What do I need to do to make this right? Often I found that there's a customer service approach that talks like this. It says when a customer's upset, ask 4 questions. What happened? What should have happened? And 3 questions. What happened? What should have happened? And how can we make this right? And you notice that doesn't involve me as the service provider or as the person who made the either actual or implied obligation saying much at all. It's listening. What happened? What should have happened? What can I do to make this right? It's a really interesting approach because often when something goes wrong, we're so involved in making excuses, trying to make it seem okay, get somebody to say, oh, that's all right, and forget it. And that's really all that is an attempt to soften the blow in our own hearts or, make that okay somehow. But all that language is for me, not for them. And disciplining ourselves to shut up and just listen to the answer, because what happened is a powerful question if you be quiet and listen. Because what I think happened and what someone else thinks happened are often quite different. And of course, we all act from our own perception. And so if I want to understand what someone thinks, I need to ask them what happened and then just listen. And then what should have happened and what can I do to clean it up? There's an adaptation of that I now use every time something goes wrong. What happened? What should have happened? And what can I do to clean it up? Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the feeling with which you do that. If I do it out of a sense of obligation, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't clean this up. So you apologize and it's half-baked. You've seen politicians and others on TV that offer some half-assed apology that you want to vomit when you hear it because they didn't mean it. They mean, I'm sorry I got caught or got embarrassed or did whatever. But true and faithful apology. What happened, what should have happened, and what can I do to clean it up with true, sincere meaning and then with full effort to clean it up. So that's what I was thinking about today. Clean it up. Clean it up. And maybe it's because I went on a walk with the dog and always, think about, okay, if the dog makes a mess, I got to clean it up. Then I got to thinking about the messes we make because of our words or the things we imply. And then that don't happen. And our responsibility, just like carrying the doggy bag and cleaning up the poop, to clean it up. That's a thought for today. Kind of in a rowdy mood, so I'm talking a little louder. It's important. Integrity is so important. Integrity, doing what we say we're going to do every time. Can you even imagine for a microsecond what we would be like, how much things would change, how good we would feel if every word that popped out of our mouths was true, real, and came to pass? Love to you. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you.